Welcome back to the Light Up Your Life podcast with your hosts, Samantha and Alexa. Today, we have a very special guest. He's one of our friends. His name is Keith Hale, and he's a visionary and pioneer in the home renovation industry. Despite the challenges of the 2008 market crash, he founded Cali Flips LLC and is now recognized as a luxury home builder for many celebrities in Orange County. Keith recently retired from his real estate empire to pursue his newfound passion. Keith understands the significance of mental health and aims to create awareness and support for men facing similar challenges. He is aiming to save lives and provide education through his new book, podcast, events, and training series. So we are so excited to have you and reconnect with you.
Likewise, I'm excited to be here and thank you for having me on your show.
No problem.
So Keith, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey as a pioneer in the home renovation industry and how you founded Cali Flips?
Yeah, so out of high school, I left high school in '95 and I was gonna play football, but my scapula got broken. I actually got jumped by a bunch of guys working one night late. I worked at a grocery store. I worked like till midnight. And so when that didn't work out, a friend of mine's dad said, how about I help you and I'll train you in the private mortgage business. So they did that. They trained me in the private mortgage business. And within a couple of years, I was doing really well. I was like 19, 20 years old, I think. And then by the time I was 21, 22, he kicked me out of the office and said, go on your own. And I went out on my own and started a company. And I did extremely well with what he taught me every part of the business I could learn. So I started using the money that I was earning to flip houses at the time because I was earning a lot of money. I didn't know what to do with it. And so we started flipping houses and I started, building my real estate empire. And that was like early on before flipping was cool. It wasn't cool. I was like flipping the crappiest houses in the neighborhood that was very bad. And that was it. And by the time I was 28 years old, I retired for the first time.
Wow, that is really awesome. I mean, you must have had to build up so much resilience and a great work ethic. So what do you kind of attribute that to, being so young and starting your own business?
Sports, for sure. I mean, everything I ever learned was on that football field, right? Except for what my parents taught me. But all the stuff I learned about myself and not giving up and teamwork and working together and getting up early and doing what other people won't do because it's hard. And it's like, football was so challenging and so hard all the time. It was never easy, right? And so in those moments, it's just you and your pads or you in the grass, and you're just thinking like, I want to quit. That's all I thought. I was like, every day I went out, I wanted to quit. I just never did. Wow. So it's like, you start learning that if you push yourself, like you're stronger than you think you are, you're capable of more than you think you are. And if you just stay there, then good things will happen. And every time I wanted to quit, the next game I did something great. So it's like, I just never quit.
Wow. And I know your kids are also playing sports now. So do you see a lot of those same values in them now? Do you see them working as hard and finding those same passions within sports and learning how to carry that over into their, life outside of sports?
Yeah. So, I mean, both my kids are scholarship athletes, right? One's football, one's baseball so far. And, I think I kind of instilled them what I was instilled and just, love the sport, play all sports. And I think just work hard and do what you can do. But yeah, they're just like me. I mean, honestly, they're so motivated. And my oldest son graduates from college this coming weekend. And so he'll start in the mortgage business, actually. He said he wants to follow my footsteps. So if he doesn't get drafted, which I'm hoping he does, it's not too late. He doesn't get drafted, he'll start in the mortgage business like me. And then I'm certain he'll be very successful.
Are you going to mentor him if he does end up going that route?
I sent him to two friends of mine that I never thought would hire him, but I thought it'd be a good interview experience. And because they're as successful as you can get in the mortgage business and they're bulldozers and they really don't hire anybody. And I said, here's their phone number. I'm not going to call them for you. You have to do it on your own. He called them and he said, Dad, they hired me. I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
I was shocked. I was like, seriously? So yeah, so I don't think I'll mentor him because I don't think they would appreciate that. But I will be here to answer questions and support him if he asks me.
That's great. So you mentioned that your success in business is attributed to the qualities that you have, your honesty, your integrity, and your loyalty. And so how have those values really helped to shape your career and the way that you conduct your business?
Well, I think, I mean, integrity, what's integrity? People, we say this word all the time, but most people don't understand what integrity actually is. So what integrity means to me is doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, right? And that is as simple as, if you're going to be 3 minutes late, to be in communication with the person to say, look, I'm going to be 3 minutes late, right? If you don't, then it's left over here like something's wrong, right? And that you're not on time and you're not the person of your word. So I've done the same thing in my business, right? I mean, integrity means everything, because integrity creates trust, right? And I've always believed that transparency creates solutions. So even in the most stressful times, like 2008 was a very, very stressful time for me. I was like, built this real estate empire. I was super young. I made all this money. I was like, man, I'm retired. I'm never going to work again. And then all of a sudden the banks closed down, and all these mortgage loans I had were like, Keith, no more loan. And I'm like, my wife at the time was leaving me for the bartender. Like, I had all these like problems, right? And so, I just got in communication. I just tried to keep as best as I could to keep my integrity intact, right? With doing what I said I was going to do, and then trying to be as transparent as possible. And like, I think a year ago, I think I raised like $130 million or something like that. And it's like the same thing goes. It's like, you have to just tell people, the truth, right? And people always say, well, how do you know all these clients that you get? So, they're just people, right? People are just people. And so I'm just very transparent. I try and keep the integrity intact. And I think if you do that in business, you'll be super successful no matter what you do, because like, if people want to listen to you as someone they can trust, right? And if they do, then you'll be successful.
And like you said, when you keep those promises to yourself, you build that internal self-trust, and then that emanates onto other people and they can trust you too. But so Alexa and I met Keith at Secret Knock, and I feel like that's the one thing we took away. We always said that, Keith, you were probably one of the most genuine and authentic people that we met there. And I wanted to give you that compliment, because it really shows with your integrity and the person that you are, and you're just honest with everyone, and you're really cool.
So we
Thank you.
immediately felt a genuine connection.
Yes.
And thought that you were one of the best people we by far met at Secret Knock, and love to keep in touch with you, and definitely feel like you're a genuine friend, and it's because of the character that you have and the integrity that you were just speaking of. So that's amazing.
Thank you. And I appreciate your gratitude. And I take that on, and that makes me feel extremely happy and supported. And that makes me feel, joyous today. And I appreciate you guys. I feel the same way about you guys. We spent a lot of time talking at Secret Knock, and, Secret Knock was interesting, right? Because it was like kind of like you found your people, right? And you kind of just like stuck with them. And I tried to like talk to a lot of different people, and I made some good connections, but you guys were by far the best people I've met there.
Oh, thank you. We
that's so
appreciate
sweet.
that.
Thank you, Kate. So if we can just pivot a little bit, so your retirement from Real Estate Empire to focus on mental health, men's mental health issues is a significant transition. What inspired you to shift your focus, and what specific challenges have you faced in dealing with mental health issues?
Yeah, it's a big question. And it's so funny. I think if you'd asked me that like 4 weeks ago, I probably would be crying by now, right? But ever since I did this work on myself, it really, I mean, I started it more than 4 weeks ago, but it just started clicking in the last like 3 weeks, right? Finally, like, when something just clicks, So, my story, a quick story, a version of it is like, I have been feeling like on my way climbing to the top, and dealing with all these different personalities. I attribute this to like vibrations, right? And, we all vibrate on a different level. And I feel like people, especially men that I've been with, that I've experienced, right? Successful men who are vibrating on a super high level, it never comes down, right? So it's very high, it's very frequent, and it's like always on. So whenever I'm hanging out with these men, even if we just close the biggest deal ever, you think we go relax, right? We go grab food, and we are doing those things, but we're still vibrating on a level that's so high. It's like, oh my God, the intenseness of my body, the experience is so rough, right? So I realized like over, especially the last year, and I didn't talk about this much at Secret Knock because I was I was feeling like, what I say, my quote that I actually trademarked is, just because I'm hurting doesn't mean I'm weak, right? And so, I attribute, my feelings and what happened to me as me being weak. Right? I've always been this tough football player. I've been ultra successful. All these things are great, but then I realized that the more I climbed to the top of the mountain, the lonelier it got, the sadder I got, and the more I would use words like there's a dark cloud over my head, or I just can't see the end in sight. I would just say things like this, and I was creating my future. And then January 7th, I tried to commit suicide. I'm very descriptive on this for a purpose, because it's helping me heal, because I don't feel like I'm out of the woods yet. But I put my car in the garage, I closed the garage, and I turned the car on, and by the grace of God, I'm still here, because I feel like there's a bigger purpose for me to live into, and it just wasn't my time to go. And that's why I'm really trying to use my voice now to help other people I can relate to, other men that are maybe climbing for success, or maybe they're athletes or whatever they're trying to do. I get what it means to start with nothing at the bottom and then build yourself to the top, and what happens along the way. It's not easy, it's not simple. And I feel like a lot of men face this, where we have trouble with vulnerability and masculinity. And we talked about the secret knock, but we're in a world of, I don't even want to say crises, but we're in change. We're in a big change, right? Masculinity is what does that mean anymore, right? What does that actually mean? We've got, women are very masculine now, right? And men have lost a lot of masculinity, right? And so there's a big role reversal here, and it's not simple. And I've dealt with it myself. I've been more on the feminine side for a long period of time, and then finding my masculinity again, being very vulnerable. Men don't want to be vulnerable.
Right. There's a lot of stigma around men showing any sort of signs of weaknesses, which really isn't called for, because mental health is important for both men and women, but there is an additional stigma around men showing any signs of weakness. So I definitely hear what you're saying, Keith.
And go ahead. I was just going to say, Alexa and I were really impressed too. So we went out to lunch, and it was Alexa, and there was like 4 or 5 other men, and you guys were really opening up and being vulnerable. And it was so amazing to see that like genuine, authentic connection, and everyone really trying to help one another and understand you guys go through a lot of struggles, but you're there to support one another. So that was just amazing to see. Cause like you said, a lot of men these days hide their vulnerability. They're not willing to talk about the struggles that they go through. So yeah, it was just really amazing to see that.
Exactly. Yeah. And definitely understand what you were talking about, the vibrating at a high frequency, even when we were at Secret Knock and with like-minded individuals, and we got a chance to connect. It almost felt like I felt like I was high, right? It was like this energy, that was like out of nowhere. I can sleep 4 hours, get up, and it was just speaking to everybody and connecting. And we went on some deep topics. I mean, we covered some really deep conversations. And it was like this dopamine high of just being with high-minded individuals. And, if this is what you felt like 24/7, I can see how that's exhausting. I remember coming back with Sam, and we were just like sleeping on the plane. We were exhausted.
Yeah.
We needed like a whole vacation after this. So it was definitely high energy, it was great. I mean, I felt amazing. We came back with all this energy and wanted to get into so many things and do so much because we just had all this energy.
And think about having that for like over a decade, like daily.
I can't imagine.
And you think like even a day off is never a day off, because it takes a full day to come down, and then you have to go right back up again the next day, right? And it's like it's so challenging. It's like for me, it just talking to a lot of men. I've been talking to all men, and even women, because my other goal is to help women who are in these relationships, right? And they don't understand what's actually happening, because the man's acting in a way that they've never seen him act before, right? And it happens. I've been angry. A lot of men, it shows up as anger. It shows up as alcoholism, drug abuse, over sex, activities. For me, it was buying stuff. I was just buying cars. Like it showed up for me as I was so stressed out, I'll just buy another car. So stressed out, I'll buy another car. Before you know it, I spent like, maybe over $1 million on cars in like a short period of time. I was like, what am I doing? Like, does no one see this behavior, right? Looking back on it now, I think it's hard because as a woman, you want to be supportive, right? And you don't understand, not by fault, but the man comes home and I'm so stressed out. Well, everyone says that, right?
Right.
Everyone says that. So it's not rare to hear anyone come home saying I'm stressed out. And you're like, oh, you're fine. I mean, and for me, people are like, dude, you got this cool car. I'm like, yeah, that cool car I tried to kill myself in, right? You put it in perspective, right? And then it's like, we look good. And my book actually is called Everything Looks Fine. And because on the outside, everything looks fine, right? We all dress appropriately. We're good into society. We're not acting crazy most of the time. So it's like, people don't really know what's happening on the inside. And that's where I'm like, I have to come talk to everyone, because you would not believe the conversations I've had in the last like 4 to 5 months. And
Yeah.
it's unreal, the people that are hurting. And it's everyone, it's men, women, it's, I've opened up to everyone. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying that my focus is men because I'm a man. I understand from the male perspective, but I know women are hurting just as bad. I know a lot of them that call me that are hurting just as bad.
And going back to your point, you saying that you bought $1 million worth of cars, it's good that you caught yourself, because a lot of times we seek outside validation and
Yeah.
we're looking for things outside of us, when really we have to have that inner peace and sit with it and really realize those triggers. Like you said, you're like, what am I doing? Why am I buying all of these cars? And so really sitting with that pain and that hurt and like letting it go through your body has really helped me, because I was the same way. I would go out and I would feel upset and I would just buy things, right? And for what? It's seeking that outside validation, that quick fix that's going to make things better in the moment, but it's really not going to help your trajectory moving
No.
forward. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. And until I think I can speak to myself, and I was always, happiness is over there, right? It's always out there. It's within your wife. It's within your girlfriend. It's within the cars. It's within the next house I bought. Like everything was out there, but I wasn't realizing what was happening within here. And it was like you said, the Band-Aids, right? For a day or two. And honestly, I didn't care about the cars. That's why I got so many of them. Like, oh, this car is cool, but whatever. I need another one. Like I'm sick of it already, right? I just need another one, another one. And I was like, gosh, I've done all these things until it's like, nothing's working. I don't drink. I don't do drugs, right? I don't want to do any of those stuff. I don't want to be crazy, but it's like, spending that kind of money is nuts. It's absolutely nuts, right? And so, learning my NVC, and I will keep saying NVC because I'm going to become an instructor. It's going to take me 3 years of like intense education. But I'm going to become an instructor in this education because, like I said, like I've watched what happens. I've watched in these groups I belong to. It transforms people in ways that I've never seen it before. I've never seen, I talked about Landmark, I talked about PSI, right? And you go there and you leave, you're like, oh my God. And if you've been at, Tony Robbins event, you walk on fire, right? You leave, you're like, dude, I can do anything, right? But then it's still like, that's a way of, being in that moment, right? So then what? The question is, then what? And I leave all these things, I'm like on fire. I'm like, oh my God, I'm making 1,000 phone calls. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to do all this stuff, right? And then 3 weeks later, I'm burnt out, literally burnt out. And I'm like, now what? I'm now go back to feeling exactly what I felt before. Well, this will actually have you shift. And this is like a daily practice of something that you actually do. And you start to realize like, I'm in control of all of this. I'm in control of how I feel. I'm in control of what my needs are. And I'm in control of getting those needs met, which is like, most people go, are you out of your mind? That's impossible. I need her to make me happy. I need him to make me happy. You don't. You absolutely don't.
I agree with you. And a lot of people say, I'm with my significant other, my better half. And you have to realize you need to be whole yourself and you have to be happy, and no one else is going to make you feel that way. So it really, you need to come together in relationships and both be happy. And that's something that I see not very often. A lot of couples are just like codependent and they're relying on each other. And really you have to do that deep inner work like you're doing. And you're helping so many people do that to really ultimately feel joy in your life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also not fair to put that burden on anybody else,
Agreed.
right? No one else is responsible for how you're feeling. If you're stressed, I mean, they're there to make your life better, to add to your life, but definitely not to fill
Mhm.
it, you know?
Yeah, and I did that for so long, and a lot of us do, right? Hey, I'm not feeling I'm stressed. Can you, for me, it's like, what? Like, think about it. I mean, when I look back on that pressure, I'm like, I don't want that pressure on me. I mean, you ever realize, you ever see people who have been together a long time and you're like, they kind of look alike. You,
Yes,
you notice that? And you
Yeah.
know why that is?
I
And
think
this,
so.
Really? Yeah.
right? I'm like,
The
why do they look
dog.
alike?
Dog.
That's odd, right?
But like I've never heard it with like actual, two people.
I think
looking-
dogs are a little more unrealistic.
I see it with like dogs and their parents, where
Yeah.
you can see where like this dog clearly matches like the dog owner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, I get that.
But people, you're like, those people are just meant to be together, right? Like Ken and Barbie, like it just looks like they're like, dude.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I realize about relationships. I'm speaking a lot about relationships because everyone does this where they're like, that is my soulmate, that is my this, and those words are so dangerous. Those are dangerous words. Those aren't like lovey words, right? Because a lot of men too believe that when you say that's my wife, that's not what a man's saying at all. When a man says that, which I coached a guy yesterday, and he kept saying my wife, I said, what are you actually saying right now? Tell me what you think you're saying. No, that's my wife. I said, no, you are having an ownership conversation with me about a person that you do not own, right? He goes, but that's my wife. I go, again, you are having an ownership conversation. And this is very common in relationships, right? Because we are expecting this thing to be, it has to be this way. This relationship has to look this way, or else it's not really a relationship. And the word marriage is just, it's a heart condition. It's a way of being. It has nothing to do with anything else, right? People have free will. People get divorced all day long. It doesn't matter about that, right? So we got to be very careful. And I'm trying to become a language expert. So we have to be very careful on what we speak over ourselves and what we say out in the world, because people say things and they go live into these realities, and you got to be careful. Even the person you're with, I mean, you got to be careful how you speak about them or speak over them. It's a very dangerous slope.
True. Jay Shetty talks a lot about that. We went to his event in Boston and he's like, love means something different to every single one of you, right? You're raised with seeing love a certain way. And so it's really important to have those conversations with your significant other and just people around you. Like, what does love actually mean to you? When you say this, what does it mean? Because love to me is different than what it means to you and Alexa. So I think that's so important to really dig into that.
And a lot.
It's so important to be in touch with your feelings, right? Because you cannot make me feel anything, right? You can heighten it for me, right? But you cannot make me feel sad, mad, any of those things, right? And people believe that, oh, I'm so mad because my wife did this to me. I'm like, that's not why you're mad.
That's conditional.
You're mad because you're not in tune with your feelings and you're not getting your needs met. But you're acting like your wife or your boyfriend or your husband or whatever is supposed to fulfill your needs. And they are not. They are not supposed to fulfill your needs. Two whole people come together to share life together. And guess what? Sometimes you can make a request, right? The request might look like, today I'm feeling a little bit bothered and sad. Now I'm needing some connection. How about we go for a walk later, right? And it doesn't matter what they say. They might say, yes, let's do that. And that's great. And they may say no, but guess what? You can still enjoy that walk just the same, right? But people don't believe that. That's the problem.
And that's what society teaches us too. Even as being a teacher, they teach you like, you did this, so I'm upset. So we're giving our control to other people when in reality, we can say, okay, this person did this. I didn't like the way that they acted, but I'm not going to change the way that I feel based on your behavior. And so I feel like we really have to switch that mindset around. We have control of all of our emotions, and what someone does doesn't have to dictate them.
Yeah, it's really more so about how you control how you react, right? So you can't control what happens around you and what other people do, but you can absolutely control how you react to those things. And that's the bottom line. Do you let it affect your feelings? Do you let it affect your how you're feeling, how you're going about your day? Or do you just, control how you react and kind of say that, well, that's how they're feeling today. That's separate from me, and it has nothing to do with me. And a lot of the times it's a reflection of themselves and how they're also feeling, right? And they're projecting onto you, and you don't want to allow that to happen. So you have to kind of remove yourself from the situation, agree that they're just going through something, and you don't have to be feeling those exact same feelings. So I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not simple, but I think that, society as a young child, I mean, you were a school teacher, we're ingrained to rely on someone else, right? I have to go to the bathroom. Like, that's a basic human need that we need permission for at school. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
So many things looking back, I don't agree with at
No.
all. That's why I ended up leaving the education fields, just because the values and what they wanted me to teach, I couldn't get behind. So
yeah, I mean, even just the conditioning of the bell, right? The bell ringing, and that's when you get up. And isn't that yeah, when you eat and then there's a ring, and then that's when you leave the classroom, and everything is very conditioned.
It's programming us. It's programming our society to follow a 9-to-5 mindset and not to think out of the box. And it's really insane too. And especially when you're having your kids take the test, right? It's by themselves. But in reality, this from being successful, you need to collaborate with people. You need to build those strong relationships, and you need to have people help you and not do it alone. So it's just really interesting when you look at the dynamic of how the education system is running now.
Yeah, I mean, sit down, don't move, right? It's like, what? Like, I'm a human being, right? I'm a being. I need to move. And you want a child at such a young age to sit down and not move and not do anything. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So it's like, here we are conditioning our youth, who is now becoming these adults. And what are they doing? They're shooting up schools because they're so angry inside, because they don't understand how they feel, right? And the schools are mad, and everyone's like, oh my God, little Johnny has a mental issue. No, little Johnny has a conditioning issue, and little Johnny now is wanting to act out because he's not in tune with who he is as a human being or how he feels inside. So, I mean, if you read the book, which I'm gonna have you read the book. I'm going to send you guys a podcast. I'm going to pay for it for you guys, but you'll see that wars have been stopped just by communication, right? Like, it's just communication, and we cannot teach our youth. And this drives me nuts. And I've already talked to one school district in Fresno, and hopefully Orange County, and then San Francisco and Sacramento. But my goal is to start talking to children now to get them in tune with actually how they're feeling, so they can communicate. Because even me, I mean, when I was, a quick story, when I was first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, they thought something was wrong with me because I didn't want to speak a lot. They put me in these classes because they thought I had a problem. So here I am in these classes maybe I didn't belong in, and I'm like, this is nuts, because I didn't want to say a lot of stuff, right? And I couldn't put blocks together, and the things that they thought I should be doing, I wasn't doing to scale. So they're teaching us like what we're gonna do. They're dictating how it's gonna go, and we have no say. But that's not life. And then you graduate, and they go, "Oh, go do what you want." I'm like, "What? I'm gonna do my whole life." And I like leave this stage, and every valedictorian says the same thing. When my school was like this: if you believe it, you can achieve it. I'm like, that's not true, because you've been teaching me when I can go to the bathroom, when I can eat lunch, when I can do all these things. You have told me what to do, and now you want me to go out and figure this out on my own? Like, are you nuts? Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And for me, I mean, I know Alexa, we both have our master's degree. And I feel like for me, going to events like Secret Knock and going to Tony Robbins events and doing all of these courses on my own, I've learned so much more than the thousands and thousands of dollars I spent on college. Like, if I could do it again, I wouldn't have went to college.
Yeah, I chose not to, which, I mean, it chose me not to, because when I got hurt playing football, and then I became successful as a salesperson in the mortgage stuff. But I mean, when are you going to use that kind of math?
Never.
I mean, I worked in the mortgage business, I in the real estate business, and I calculated these ginormous numbers, right? I mean, it's not that difficult, right? I didn't learn that in any school. I was just learned on the job. And it's like, I feel like unless you're going to be a skilled doctor or a lawyer, if that's your route, then you need education, because that's that's the measure in the United States, which is ridiculous to me, right? But that is the measure because they want to make a bunch of money and control you for a long period of time. But I mean, you don't need education from a college to be successful. You need people, you need feeling, you need to understand, you need a network, right? You need to spread your wings and go figure things out, and you need to become an entrepreneur. It's like, I don't understand people that want to work for someone else's dreams. It's hard, and I know we have to do it, right? I did it for years, right? But the thing is, like, it's like a fear base, right? Because what if this? Well, what if, I think this? What if that CEO commits murder? What if he does something, unscrupulous, and now this company falls to the ground? And people say it's never going to happen. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. And now you base your career on this person that they sold you a dream that one day you'll be the boss. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. So you're just not going to ever. It's like it's a very taught mentality, and I just feel like we have to break this. We have to start, because look at all these world problems we have, right? Especially the United States, we have all these issues, right? We could talk for hours about all the issues we see, right? We have so many problems, and they're not being solved because we're not empowering our youth to raise up. We're showing them how to watch TV, social media, how to challenge their parents, right? We're showing them all these things that go against, the Bible, and go against us all, things that we heard from our grandparents, and treat people how you want to be treated, do unto others as you want done unto you. Just the easiest things are now out the window, right? And everyone's becoming like this gamer, or this, they want to be something else, right? So it's like we have to really empower our youth, because this is a ginormous crisis, and it's not good. It's very upsetting.
I know, I couldn't agree more with you. And so I know that you're a new author. You just authored a new book. So can you share some of those insights on how you plan to address men's health challenges?
Yeah. So, the book, so my idea for the book was that I want to speak from a perspective that helps men. And then I've been talking to a bunch of doctors and stuff, and I just want to talk to doctors about the back end of mental health, right? To understand how we get there. And I just took a college course through Harvard, actually, that helps me to identify when someone's having a challenge that I cannot coach, right? And so the book's going to address, all the big topics, right? Suicide, how to prevent it. I do believe suicide is preventable if it's caught at the right time and it's not under influence of drugs or alcohol. I do believe it's preventable, right? We're going to talk about masculinity. We're talking about vulnerability, being accountable. Accountable is such a big thing because most men, I'm speaking for men, we blame other people. It's always blame, right? If you had just done this, I wouldn't have done this, right? You hear it all the time. I was coaching a man last week. He said, I punched this wall because my wife pissed me off. That's not why you punched the wall. Not even close, right? But it's always like accountability. We're going to talk about hurt to heal, not hurt to hurt. This is a big one for me because I was hurting to hurt, because it's so much easier to play the victim role. Let's be the victim, right? Because if we're the victim, then won't feel sorry for us. We'll get all the attention, and then we'll get all the woes, but that's not going to help us heal. So we have to learn how to hurt to heal, which is a much different process than hurting to hurt. We're going to learn how to talk so they'll listen, and that's whoever is in your life, right? Because I would say a lot of stuff and no one was listening, right? But I was saying it in a way that it couldn't land because of maybe a way of being I was being prior to me saying that stuff. And no one wants to hear it at that point, right? So they're closed off and blind. And if you say stuff too much, then maybe you're crying wolf too. So the book is going to address this stuff. And I'm actually writing this book. Okay, this is not like a ghostwriter. I keep saying that. I feel bad for saying this because, we had that conversation. And I won't say it here, but I'm just saying, like, I'm actually a part of the writing of this book because I want to make sure it's the story is told correctly. And then not only is it going to be a story, but it's going to be what to do about it next. Because again, we all read all this stuff and then it's like, oh, that felt so good. Great. And now I can, recite quotes, but I have no action steps. So for me, it was very important to give men, and also women can read the book too, because it'll be great to understand what in the hell is going on with this person, right? and then from the book will be a training manual in the book. And then it will be, my goal is to hold seminars and to help people better understand like what's going on and to be in tune with all these topics. There's 13 chapters. And then at the end now, I've put in nonviolent communication, because to me, it's like, I swear, if I had found this a decade ago, I'd be a different human, but I probably wouldn't have met you guys. So, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. But the fact that I have it now, I have to tell the world what this is and how to use it effectively, because it can save marriages, it can save lives, it can stop wars, it can have a lot of conversations, and it takes each one of us, we're responsible to be a contribution to our communities, right? So the book's going to address all of these things, and I hope to have it out, the next couple of months. That's the goal.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is so great.
And I know you're doing more than just the book, right? So you're also, I know you're starting your own podcast, you're doing all kinds of events. So what other lessons or messages are you hoping to convey through all these means?
I think, my goal now is to further the conversation, right? I think people get into the conversation and we stop at some point because, things do change. It did for me too. You get into this conversation and how you feel, and you hire a counselor, which, no offense, and I'm going to say this, and I feel so bad saying this, but I have to say it, because I spent thousands of dollars on counseling. And honestly, I'm just going to say it doesn't work. Okay. It just doesn't work. Okay. Because at the end of the day, a counselor is just a friend I'm talking to, and we're rehashing the past, and we're rehashing last week, and we only have an hour or 2 hours to do this, and that is just not long enough for us to get through it, right? It's just not long enough. So we need solutions. Counselors identify problems and keep me in the problem, right? And then there's no end in sight, because if there's an end in sight, then they don't have a client anymore, right? So people need coaches, not counselors. Coaches hold you accountable. The coaches want change. They want to see change, and it's not forever, right? I could now say that for the years I did counseling, or the months I did it, whatever I did, long as I did it, if I had just known what I know now, I could help someone within a period of time. I could say within 6 weeks, here is, if we work together for 6 weeks, here is what's going to happen at the end of the tunnel for you. So it happened to me. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to further the conversation. I'm doing events. We're going to have another event next month. If you guys can come, actually, you're going to come. I'm going to have you on stage. Forgot about that. And I'm just like trying to plan this event, and it'll probably be July 8th. And, it's awareness, but we have to, it's one thing to like I just said, awareness, right? So we're all aware of this, right? And all these other things make us aware of a lot of things, but then what, right? I keep saying, then what? So my goal is, with the podcast, Everything Looks Fine, is to bring a lot of people together, and then let's figure out then what. And then once these people are healed, can you go help someone else now, right? My goal is to heal people, not to have them come and just hear me talk and all this crap, and hear all these doctors talk and bring in, I don't know, 20-year-old, whoever we bring in, and then just to hear it forever. That's stupid. It doesn't work. And then they're just going to go crazy again in 4 months. So let's heal together. Let's fellowship together. Let's bond together. Let's create community together. Let's retreat together. And then once you feel like, man, I'm past my point of healing, now I want you to go heal someone else, right? So that's what I'm trying to create, a ginormous community, like a team, like a football team, if you will, that will go out, learn the playbook, right? Heal themselves, and then go heal others. And that's my mission. And I feel like, had I had died in January, people would have said, he built that incredible house, he knew that person, he did this, he did that, he did this. Meaningless stuff, all meaningless stuff. Because most people, when I deliver that house to them, or they buy the house, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And they say that while I stand there. Do you know I almost never hear from them again? Not like, hey man, we're putting down roots in this beautiful house by the beach, and my kids love it, and my wife is so happy. And I never hear from them unless they need something or something broke. That's not fulfilling to me, right? I want to see some legacy,
That's amazing. You're pursuing your true passion, and it's making an impact on the world. And I totally understand that, and that's amazing. I love it.
And if you didn't go through those struggles, that pain, you would have never found your purpose. I mean, you built, like you said, this successful career, but you weren't feeling fulfilled inside. But now
Yeah.
you're taking all that pain and all those challenges, you've healed yourself, and now you're going to be able to heal, I think, millions of people through your work, which is amazing. And I want to go back to your book because I think it's so important that as humans, we really understand ourselves. So all of those different things that you have in your book are really going to help people become more self-aware, because I feel like a lot of times people go to other people and they're like, you don't understand me, when you don't even understand truly yourself. And so I
Right.
think going to be very transformative for anyone who reads that and anyone who listens to your podcast or your events. And I know you also recently came out with a course as well.
Yeah, so the first course, Greg, I mean not Greg, sorry, but I love Greg. But Daryl had me do this course. Everything looks, excuse me. It was what's the name of the course? The name of the course is basically how to be transparent, right, or something. And that was a fun course to do, and I appreciate doing that course. I think it all translates all together, right, as I go down this path. I feel like the next course is going to be more succinct to the message of that course leads up to this stuff, right? Goes back to when I was in elementary school and I fell down the playground for the first time and I skipped my knee and I'm bleeding and I start crying for the first time in a school setting, and some kid comes over and calls me a wimp, slaps me in the face, and all the cool kids are over there laughing at me. He's a baby. He's calling me all these names. And then I made this decision at that point that I'm never going to cry again at school. I'm going to be a tough guy. So then I suppressed from 4th grade on. I suppressed my true feelings inside because I didn't want to be viewed as a wimp, right? That was my story, right? So, the first course was like going through all of that stuff that leads up to what happened now. And so next will be the book, Everything Looks Fine, the podcast, Everything Looks Fine. And from that, I'm going to go many directions, right? First is the men's part, and the book I think can heal anybody, but it's geared towards men. And then women's part is next, right? I'm going to do the women's part. And it's funny because I started this coaching business and it's been cool. It's been really cool to coach people, but it's crazy. I get more requests to coach women than men at this point.
Wow.
And I'm like,
fascinating.
I was trying to figure that out yesterday with Daryl. I'm like, why is that? And he's like, he doesn't really understand why, but I'm starting to understand because I feel like women are, initially are more in tune with how you feel, and you're more open to be vulnerable about it, right? You're more open to talk about it. But then you have these issues over here with this person and you don't know what to do or how to deal with them. And I think they're calling me because they're having this issue that's bringing them down, right? And so they're asking me like, well, what do I do now, right? What's next, right? And so it's interesting to see the dynamics. So I'm not gonna be just men because we're human beings. I want to help human beings, right? So it started off that way because I know that perspective, because like you said, I'm healing. I am still hurting. I'm doing a lot of work every single day. I'm not out of the woods yet. I probably won't be for a long time, but I understand what I need to do now to heal myself. So I'm way down that process. I want to help everyone do the same.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say that you're attracting more women clients, because Alexa and I noticed on the podcast, we're always interviewing men, and it's because of our childhood and what we went through with our father. So maybe somehow that's connected with you and your childhood of why you're, attracting women to coach them. Maybe just something to look at, because I thought that was fascinating when we dug into that. So
yeah, it could be. And also men, like, I go to these groups and I do this all the time. And I still do this. I just did this. I went to a men's group 3 weeks ago in Orange County. And it was like, I walk in and I'm evaluating, right? I'm passing judgments and I'm evaluating the men. So I'm like, oh man, I'm the worst one in here. Literally, that's what I said. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that dude looks like he's a family man. That dude looks pretty cool. That dude looks successful, right? That dude looks hippie, right? He's calmer than me. And then we start sharing. Every single one of us is trying to commit suicide.
wow.
Every single one of us has personal relationship issues, right? So you just never know, right? So it's very quick to judge and evaluate. In the book, nonviolent communication, excuse me, shows you how to stop doing that, right? How to not evaluate, right? How to observe, not evaluate, not to judge, because we're all dealing with something. All of us are hurting in some way, are dealing with an issue that's, we don't know what to do about. If you look at it, every one of us is, right? So we have to be careful not to judge people.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I feel like the society today makes us judge everyone and compare ourselves to everyone's highlight reel. And that also makes people really upset and depressed. So I think that's great that you're bringing awareness to that.
Yeah, social media is the killer of people.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's the killer of relationship. It's the killer of community because I'm doing my best to show my authentic self on social media, right? Not to be like, hey, I'm so cool. Look at me where I'm at. No, I'm like, today I'm hurting so bad. I just spent the last 2 hours crying because I couldn't control my emotions until I did some work on myself, right? But most people show this like selfie of this person they're with, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the best relationship ever. But that's not true, right? It's looking good because now the ego, right? Social media has made this ego issue so big, right? And we can't control the ego anymore. So now it's really about, trying to control the ego, which is so difficult. And social media is just like, propelled this issue. It's like, it's insane how much it's done this. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It-
And it's not the case, right? We're all not perfect. We're all human beings. We are flawed. We all feel a certain way. And we don't have a lot of opportunity to kind of work through that and kind of go back to all the things you talked about. It's really hard to express yourself, whether you're a man or a woman. There's all these really big expectations of, what you're supposed to be. And social media adds to that, right? For women,
Yeah.
it's how you're supposed to look. You have all these filters that
you have
are
to look
setting
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, that are setting standards that are completely unrealistic. And then, like we talked about for men, there's all this stigma to be this masculine macho man, when in reality, men are human beings. They have
Mhm.
feelings just like women do, and they don't have the tools
Mhm.
to be able to speak to them in the same way that women do. I mean, women have friends and they talk about their feelings all the time. They can get it off their chest. Men don't have those opportunity. They don't feel comfortable talking with other guys about their feelings. They talk about sports and how is the game, and
Yeah.
it's just high level
like,
kind of
yeah.
conversations. They don't really touch on the deep stuff, and it's important to do that, right? So it's amazing, Keith, that you're opening up and giving it an opportunity and a platform for these men to normalize it, right? That one, it's important to talk about it. You're so brave for coming forward with your story and sharing that with all your audience. And we are absolutely rooting for you. This is an important message, and we're so glad that somebody's doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is important, and it's like we have to further it. We have to work together, all of us. I mean, TV shows one side of things. I can tell you, I've been on TV. It's fake. Most of it's all fake, right? You guys have been on TV. It's not real. You're censored. I don't want to go back on TV because they tell me I'm going to say this about Benjamin. Oh, no, you're not. I'm like, well, I'm not going on there because I don't want to be censored. I want to tell raw truths because we can't change anything with censorship, right? And everything on TV, every woman doesn't weigh 80 pounds. Okay? Every man's not, super buffed and fit. It's just not reality, but that's what we see because that's what they want us to see. Every person's not rich. This is not reality, right? Some people don't drive Mercedes Benz or Porsche or Lamborghinis, right? Some people drive regular cars, right? And it's all okay. We're all having a human experience, and the TVs and social media takes that human experience and demoralizes it. And I hate that.
Yeah. And like we said before, it has that huge comparison. I think what's been really pivotal for me is looking how far I've came and just looking at yourself and not, passing judgment or comparing myself to you or Alexa or whoever.
Right.
And it's so important to do that inner work, to just look how far you've came and what you've went through. So
Yeah, because you have to be at the end of it all. It doesn't matter. You have to be okay with you at the end of the day, right? It can't be like, oh, this no or that no. You have to be okay with you, right? No matter what you is, you have to be okay with you.
Absolutely.
so true.
Well, we really appreciate having you on the phone and on the line here. And for all of our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you via either the podcast or where's the best
Instagram.
Instagram?
Just go to Instagram, Keith Hale. I mean, Keith Aaron Hale. My grandma always called me Keith Aaron, so it's like, I went back to my roots of Keith Aaron Hale. KeithAaronHale.com. I'm on all social media channels. My YouTube channel is up now if you want to learn about me and all these other videos that we spoke about. You'll kind of learn what happened to me from the start and what's leading up to now. And then the podcast will be Everything Looks Fine. But if you just Google my name, you'll find it. And I wanted to let everyone know, since we didn't record this part, I am here in Prozac's studio in the great Las Vegas. And Prozac is a dear friend of mine, has been for over 20 years. And he's one of the most famous producers on the radio right now. He produces Snoop Dogg and E40 and Too Short, a lot of different rappers. He's also an artist himself. So when people are going to be wondering, what is that in the background, right? And where am I? And so I'm in his recording studio in Las Vegas. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of his music. I know we all have. It's played at the, the nightclubs and things like that. But he's a great guy. And that's why I'm here. I want people to not understand, like, what is that background? It's not one of my podcasts. Definitely not.
Well, Keith, we are so honored to have you as a guest. You're making incredible moves and you're going to be impacting hundreds of thousands of lives. So we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And for our listeners, please subscribe, like, and share this. I know this one's going to go viral, and we are all sending you so much love and light. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.